Hi everybody, all my followers, welcome to another video. Right, the video today is on 2008 Audi A6. This is the S line with the 2.7 V6 engine, diesel. And this car came to me, right, the engine light was on when the car came to me, and I've scanned the car, I've deleted the faults. Was a few faults in there, was more than two faults, was a few faults in there that I thought they have nothing to do with the problem. I think they were from a long time ago. I didn't check really, I could check on the freeze frame data, but I didn't. Anyway, I've deleted two faults, came back. One fault, I don't believe it makes the engine light come on anyway. The other one does, and the only reason why the light didn't come on straight away is because due to I'm just here stationary, and engine load and engine parameters at the moment are not making the light come on, but I'm sure if I drive the car the light it would come on. And we're gonna look at the faults so you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. So draw codes. Okay, so we have an active fault here, which is 05495, and basically is the engine mount. It says there's an open circuit on that N145. I don't believe that makes the engine lights come on anyway. So I'm gonna ignore that code for now. And that one, it came back on straight away. I couldn't delete the code, but it still says passive and sporadic, and it says intake manifold runner bank 2 lower limit not reached. So the runner, the intake manifold runner, basically what it is the actuator for the what they call, well, I think they are called swirl flaps or something like that, or intake flaps. Because this is a V6, there is two, so you have bank 1 and bank 2. And as you can see, it tells me that bank 2 is not reaching the limit. I know already why it's not reaching the limit, and I'm going to show you in a minute why. But as of now, all we know is that there's a problem with that intake. Now, it could be several things. It could be the linkage that would come off and it wouldn't move the flaps. It could have been many things. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you to the engine bay, and I'm going to show you why the lower limit is not being reached. So we are under active tests, and we're going to first check the intake runner bank 1. We're gonna go next, and let's gonna check bank 2. And there it is. It doesn't move. I don't know if you can see. Let's. So, if you could see, it doesn't move. You can, I don't know if you've seen, but that was not moving at all. The duty cycle, now it does a few times and then it stops. But basically what it does is, it requests to go to 80, and it goes to 89 as you can see in there. Then when he requests to come to 20, he stays on 89. It doesn't move. You've seen the arm was now moving. What we're going to do is we're going to come off here. We're going to do it again. So let's going to cycle the ignition. So let's gonna go up to don't like this sequential active test. You should be able to go and choose the one you want to do, that's it. But whatever. So this is bank 1. Gonna see in there. So this is what is requesting. This is what the value the actually regulator is feeding back. Regulator, it's not a regulator, what that's called, the actuator. So that's what the ECU is requesting, and that's what the feedback is. So he's meeting exactly what he needs. I'm gonna go to the next, bank 2. So can you see there? The actually duty cycle, I'll go quick and then you're gonna see is not moving. So there is definitely it's still going. Look, 20, 80, 20. As you can see, the feedback from the thing is it doesn't change, because obviously the actuator is not moving, so the feedback is going to be whatever position is all the time. So there is something wrong with that flap, with that actuator, or the wiring to the actuator. So I don't know yet which one is going to be, but we're going to have to investigate a little bit further, try to figure out what's going on. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check voltage. If there's only one, I would have to, well, I could check the basic voltage I know I should have, like ground, 12 volts at least. Because I have two, and one is working, I can just actually compare the voltage from one to the next. So we're going to check the good one, which is the one on this side first. And I know the ground is the brown, or it usually is. It's gonna check this. So okay, so 12 volts on the first pin straight after ground. There's another 3 pins, so the next one I have 3.2 volts, and the next one I have 1185. So I'll grab the next one, the one that is not working. So brown is that one there. So first one straight after 12.03, next one 3.2 volts, and next one 1185. So all the voltage are there, or here. So my next step is going to be possibly remove this. I think maybe this is at fault. So let's go remove this and see what to do next. First thing we're going to do now is test this motor. Okay, should work, I think. And I think we found the issue. The motor is not running. The motor is not running, but hang on, I can actually take the motor off on its own, can I? Or no? At least I should be able to. This comes off there. Just gonna see if I can dismantle this a little bit more. Okay, so after cleaning the motor and all that, I put everything back on, and unfortunately the problem's still in there. Nevertheless, we cleaned everything inside, all the dust. I've cleaned that with the electrical cleaner spray, so it's all cleaned. I also compressed a little bit the contact plates for the electrical side of things, and just put everything back on. Now the problem's still there. I managed to move or to switch that fault to passive and sporadic. And the way I've done it is, well, let me show. Let me tell you first, because I'm on my own now. I had to ask the missus to come and cycle the ignition. But basically, what it does every time you turn the ignition, both actuators on both sides, they move. They move to the lower limit. So they move all the way to the lower limit, and then they come back to their original position. So when you face the engine from the front, so the left hand side does just start and stops. The right hand side, I don't know, you have seen on the previous recordings, is right at the top. The lever is right at the top. So what he does is, he goes all the way down, like bangs it down, and then it comes up slowly. Then it goes down again and comes up slowly. It's like if he's trying to find his lower limit, I guess. And he does that, I think, 2 or 3 times. And then he comes up, and when he comes up, I can press it and he moves freely. So he stops being actuated. While the other one, he does what he needs to do, and after that, I mean, the motor keeps that position, so you can't really move it by hand. So what I've done, and the fault just comes up as a static and active. So what I've done to make that to happen is, I put something, just to try, put something underneath, and I've asked the mister to turn off the ignition. When she turned it on, the level just moved all the way down, but it stopped before it went all the way down, because I put a screwdriver in there forcing it. So it stopped and it came up straight away. And as soon as it came up, it stopped. It didn't attempt to go again, and I couldn't move it anymore. And I just logged out of this ECU, came back in, and the fault is now passive or sporadic. So I think what is happening is, I think it's just worn on that shaft for the flaps and everything. And every time you turn the ignition on, those 2 actuators, they're gonna find their limits. And when that one moves all the way down, it's just going over the limit. So let's say if that should stop at a certain place, but it's going over, and the ECU tries that 2 or 3 times, because it goes over all the time. He just says, hang on a minute, something's wrong here, and I'm not going to use this actuator. And he just leaves the actuator deactivated, and you can't move it freely, no problem. And obviously that will trigger the engine light, and the fault just goes like that. So what I'm going to do now, just to prove my theory, I haven't done yet, what I'm going to do now, so the fault is now passive or sporadic. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come out of the ECU, and I'm going to cycle the ignition. And actually what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put the camera there now, and you're going to see the actuator try to find its point. And what hopefully is going to happen is, the fault is going to come back as active. So I'm going to put the camera there, and then I'll come in to cycle the ignition. Okay, let's go and switch the ignition. So you have hopefully seen the lever going down, then coming up slowly, then go down again, coming up slowly, and we'll have a look now. And I can bet my wages that fault is now active and is not passive anymore. There we go. There we go. So I think that's what it is. It's just the lever, those flaps and the shaft and everything is now worn, that is allowing the motor to go over the limit, over the what for this ECU is the limit, is going over that. And the ECU, obviously, by seeing that, he assumes there's something wrong. I can't see nothing wrong, At least outside, it looks like it's just worn out and there's too much play and all that. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way, because the guy doesn't want to replace the manifold. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to resolve these issues somehow. Just don't know how yet. Okay, so I think I came up with a, well, don't know if I can say a rather ingenious solution, whatever. But before we get to that, so as you've seen from my last bit, when I turn off the ignition and turn it back on, the lever just moved, because it does every time you cycle the ignition. It just moved to find the lower limit, let's gonna call it like that, and because it went over the lower limit, it came back up, tried again, came back up, as I've showed you. But we did it inside the car, and as you've seen, the fault went from passive to active straight away. So let me explain you what I've done. First, I've tried to find out what would be the maximum lower limit, if that makes sense. The minimum, lower limit. Okay, when the lever when the lever moves down and push the linkage down, I've tried to figure out what was the maximum it actually could go down. How I did that, I put a screwdriver underneath. So I think this goes like this on the engine. Goes like this. And this, just what it does is, let me see if I can do it from this side. So what it does is it does it quick, obviously, but it moves like this, all the way down. And it should stop somewhere around here, let's say it should stop here, for example. What it does is, because the manifold is worn, it moves a little bit further, and the ECU detects that further movement, and it just rolls all the way back, and then it does the same again, goes all the way down. Let's say, for example, here it should stop here, but it goes a little bit over, and it detects that little bit over, and it goes, no, that's wrong, and come back and deactivates the actuator. And after this moment, you can move it by hand, which you shouldn't be able to, because the ECU should keep that position. But because it deactivates this, you are then able to move it. That's how I know he's not utilizing this anymore, and he activates the fault. So what I've done is I put a screwdriver, when this is in place, I put a screwdriver like under there to stop this before. So when this moves that way, and it moves that way, it hits the screwdriver, and I can see, and obviously stops and comes back straight away. So what I've done is I've measured, so let's say that could go all the way down to there. Obviously this is with the linkage in place, all the way down. Then I left this coming a little bit back, and I put a screwdriver underneath. The missus came here, turn ignition off, that went up, the screwdriver was still in place, turn ignition on, that would go down, hit the screwdriver, and came back straight away, and it was firm. So I knew the ECU took that as that point, as the lower limit reached. Before the successful attempt, I was allowing it to go a little bit further down, and it was just failing. So as soon as I found that limit, so I found that limit. So what I've done after, as soon as I knew exactly where I wanted to be, how movement would have to do, I've took the body out, I've opened it, put it there in place again, just like that, open like this, put it in there, and then I've just simulate again, turning this side where the lower limit was. And now the only thing I would have to do is to find a way to make this lever to stop before it went any further than the lower limit, let's say. And I found one, which is that one right there. So what I've done is I've drilled through that cog in there, and I put a screw. So when this turns, it's just gonna hit that in there. And hopefully that will be before past the lower limit, and the ECU is gonna detect this as the correct position, and then it's gonna allow it to go back, and voila, it should work. I'm really hoping that's gonna work. I'm really hoping that's gonna work. So let's gonna close this and see what happens. Put it on the car and see what happens. Okay, I put everything back in place, and what I'm gonna do now is, so the code was active and static because of the last time we did cycle ignition. So if my idea worked, what we should see now is I'm going to turn the ignition on. The actuator is going to move. It's going to turn until that bolt hits that notch in there. It's going to recognize that as the lower limit. It's going to come back straight away, and this fault, it should go on its own now to passive and not active anymore. So let's go and have a go and see what happens. So I'm going to come off the ECU. It's going to turn the ignition on. It's going to go into the engine again. I don't think I need to cycle the ignition again. I think only one time is enough. There we go. Wow, there we go, guys. That's it, gone. Have you seen that? It's gone. So it worked. It worked. So, oh, it worked. I'm really pleased that it worked. Wow. So I don't know, guys, if I came across or if I explained this well, but just to recap, so basically every time that lever, every time you cycle the ignition, both actuators for both manifolds, they're gonna go to their limits. They're gonna kind of check the limits, and basically that side, what I was doing was going to check the limit, but because the shaft and everything at the bottom of the linkage at the manifold was all worn, that was allow the actually actuator to move over what for the ECU would be the maximum. So it was moving over that maximum or over that minimum, wherever you want to. It was going over the lower limit, so it was just moving too far down. So what I've done is I just arranged the way, found a way, which you've seen, that screw inside, found a way to make that to never go below a certain point. And obviously now it's just going to stay. It's not going to move from there. So if I go back now into active tests, I'm pretty much sure I'm going to be able to activate that other one now. So this is the throttle valve, turbocharger. Okay. Next, let me move the camera a little bit more like that. Okay, so bank one. Let's gonna see what bank one does. So you have what is requesting and what is actually doing. So you request 80, go away to 1.3, 20 goes 20.9. Let's gonna see the next one now. 20, 20.9, 80, 81.3. So you can see now it's actually actuating. I can't go there now because I have the phone charging, guys. The battery was flat, but you can see it's going. You was not doing that before, as you know. So I think we actually nailed this one quite well. That's it, guys. There's nothing else to show you. I just hope I came across, or I just hope I showed you exactly how I did everything, and I didn't show you how I did everything, but I explained to you how I did everything, how I came to these conclusions, and what I did to overcome the problem. So I think the proper repair on this one would have to be a full intake manifold, at a much more greater cost. At least it would cost more. It would cost more than a screw. So that's it, guys. I'm ending here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions, comments, if you need any clarification on how I did this, just put on the comments below. And like always, thank you so much. So thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel and watching my videos. Thank you, guys.